I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with episode 194 of Ham Radio Answers, focused on a new software update that adds scanning to the SDRplay series of software-defined radios. Up to this point in the development of software-defined radio, there have been any number of inexpensive hardware items, down to little dongles you can buy on Amazon, up to very expensive RF front ends. And then there are several, usually free, software packages that will interpret the output of the hardware front ends. Of course, that means that the output of the hardware has to meet some sort of standard. And it's usually what's called an IQ signal. The software running in your PC, Mac, Linux, Raspberry Pi, or whatever, then interprets the IQ signals to give you gobs of computer displays to look at, and you can hear the receiver output. Well, in some cases, there's more capability to be found if the hardware and software are made by the same manufacturer. This is the case with the SDRplay suite of receivers, or what they call radio spectrum processors, hence RSP, which includes the now discontinued RSP1 and the current RSP1A, RSP2, RSP2 Pro, and RSP Duo. Of these, I have the RSP1A and the RSP Duo. While these, quote, radio spectrum processors, unquote, will work with a variety of software programs, the house brand software is the freeware from SDRplay called SDR Uno. It can reach inside the hardware and activate numerous parameter changes to give you the best experience. I've reviewed both the SDRplay RSP1A hardware, which I bought with channel funds, in Ask Dave episode 115, and the RSP Duo hardware, which the company sent me to review some time ago, in episode 132. What occasions this review is a major update in the house brand software SDR Uno. I will summarize my previous review of SDR Uno by saying that everything that can be made adjustable is adjustable. There are adjustments for adjustments. Yes, I think it's too complex. I wish they had a simple mode and an expert mode, rather than just the expert mode. That said, it is possible to tame this acronym happy software with the patient aid of the 81-page software manual. If you're just getting started, use section 20, which I'll call a good start list of abbreviations and acronyms to which you can add as you go. You'll find this list to give you a major advantage. And be patient. In spite of its low cost, the RSP1A, which I used for this review, is an incredibly capable software-defined radio. The user experience is as much visual as it is auditory. Once you get used to the detailed spectrum and waterfall displays, it will be hard to go back to traditional superheterodyne-based receivers. Now to what prompted this review. I received an email from John Hudson of SDRplay about their new software upgrade, version 1.3 of SDR Uno. Again, their house brand software now has a rather cool scanning capability. John asked if I could take a look at it. He mentioned it's best for channelized bands, such as broadcast bands, air bands, police and fire and all that, but he wondered if there might be a good way of, quote, seeing if anything pops up on, say, 20, 15, or 10 when the bands are pretty dead, just in case that unusual hop from somewhere remote makes it via the ionosphere, unquote. Well, that seems like a nice challenge and a great way to use your SDRplay in your station, and I came up with an idea. But first, I had to get the software. It's available at SDRplay.com. Oddly, SDR Uno, which is a major product in itself, is not listed as one of their products. Rather, go to Downloads and select Software and Documentation. This takes you to the download page. Now, you can see that there are different versions for several different software programs. In my case, I wanted Windows, that's the default. Curiously, they list SDR Uno 1.22 first. That's more than a year out of date. Go to the next one, SDR Uno version 1.3, dated the 14th of March in 2019. This is the current house software and the one you want. Note that this page has a couple other software packages available, both of which will work to some extent with the SDRplay radios. But, of course, it's the house brand software that will work the best. I suggest they modify the page to highlight SDR Uno software or some descriptive term that says best match for your SDRplay receivers. I downloaded the software and updated my installation. The instructions say to disconnect any SDRplay receivers prior to running the software the first time. The receivers are connected to the computer via USB cables, which, by the way, also powers them. There's no wall wart or anything with these. So disconnect these until the installation package says to plug them back in. Once you're all set up, the software should do for you what it's always done. Here's a look at what comes up. Fully 5 different windows arranged on the screen. Here's a quick tour. The top level window is this one. This one is a receiver, and this is a companion window showing the spectrum of what's being decoded by that receiver. In this case, I have the receiver tuned to 14.074 upper sideband, which is the FT8 frequency, and here in this spectrum window you can see the individual FT8 signals. This window down here is the big spectrogram. You can see the spectrum analyzer on the top half, and on the bottom you can see the waterfall of the entire band. There are a few single sideband signals, but the real happening seems to be on FT8. Lastly, this is the memory window. You can have as many memory banks stored as you want. You can just pick frequencies from here. Now let's take a look at the scanning function, which is new in version 1.3 of the software. In the top level window, labeled Main, there's a box labeled Scanner, one of the few boxes that actually spells out a word instead of providing an acronym. Clicking on Scanner brings up this box. It's not very big. I'm going to move it here where we can see it by itself. Let's look at the controls. We have a play button, which starts scanning, a pause button if you want to stay on the current scanning frequency, and a stop button, which stops scanning entirely. Then there are 2 buttons, range and memory. You can select between these only when scanning is stopped. The mem is the easiest to understand. It will scan the frequencies listed in the memory panel, and you can load different memory banks from file or save a modified bank to a file. The range scans a range of frequencies, stopping on those with signals or noise strong enough to pass the threshold signal strength. Note that you cannot switch scanning modes unless the scanner is stopped. Let's look now at scanner configuration. The top half of the window and the bottom half are independent of each other. At the top are some scanning range pre-configured presets. Although these always show up when clicking the Scanner Config button, the top settings are only adjustable if you've selected the range scan mode. There are a few built-in scan ranges, such as North American medium wave stations, meaning our US AM broadcast band, and the air band to hear aircraft communications. There are 4 custom presets. I've set and saved custom preset 1 to be the American FM broadcast band, starting at 88.1 megahertz. Note how everything is in hertz in the system, and stopping a titch above the top at 108.1 megahertz, with the spacing between channels of 200 kilohertz. I used Save Preset to save custom preset 1, though you can't rename it. Now if I scan, it will check every 200 kilohertz in the range looking for a commercial FM station. In the US, FM broadcast stations are spaced 200 kilohertz apart. Note that setting the threshold is touchy, and you may find yourself skipping over stations, or on the other hand, stopping on nothing but noise. Please note that whatever you're scanning, you have to set the receiver control window to be the right mode. It does not change automatically unless you're memory scanning, because you can store a mode with each memory frequency. So if you're range scanning commercial FM frequencies, you need to set the mode to FM, then pick SWFM, which means stereo wideband FM, to decode it properly. By the way, it does a good job. Now, I do want to mention one other button, the fast forward icon. If you hover your mouse over that button, it says skip to the next frequency. In all my testing, the button never did anything, either in range scan or memory scan. It looks almost as though it's grayed out, but the user manual does say it has the skip forward function. Speaking of skipping forward, you can only scan in the up direction. Let's look at the bottom of the scanner configuration screen. This part of the screen applies whether you're doing a range or a memory scan. The hold time is how long the scanner will dwell on a frequency if there's something there. The threshold is like setting a squelch for the scanned band. The threshold is set as a line on the main spectrum plot if you check the box that says Display Threshold. If you want the scanner to stop on the first signal it finds, check the Wait on Signal ? Box. If you would like the system to save the frequencies of signals it stops onto the memory panel, you can check that box too. The last box is whether you want the scanner to keep looping or stop after one scan. I mentioned earlier I had an idea for scanning bands to see if they were open. One way to do it, of course, is to use the keypad to simply look at bands to find activity. Here's another way using the scanner. The reasoning goes this way. By far the most popular mode at the moment is FT8. So I figure if a band is open, there will be FT8 activity. So I created a memory bank of all the HF FT8 frequencies from 160 meters to 6 meters. I set the threshold at minus 120 dBm and the mode to upper sideband. The dwell time is 5 seconds, which is enough to cover the gap between when FT8 signals stop and new ones begin, so that way a band won't be silent when you happen to fall upon the switching time. By simply watching for a few seconds, you can tell which bands have FT8 activity and are therefore likely to be open. I'm hearing activity in the 30, 20, and 17 meter bands, with something very weak on the 15 meter band, with most of the activity on 20 followed by 17 meters. The SDRplay.com website has a number of videos to help you learn how to use the SDR Uno software. As I mentioned, it's complex and will take patient study. I suggest starting with the main panel by running RF gain all the way to the max, just like you would do on a regular radio. Second, go into the settings on the main SP panel and tweak the waterfall gain until you see the waterfall with a bit of grainy noise in the background. You will also want to print the manual and walk through it a little at a time to show the incredible capabilities available. Remember, these receivers cover from 1 kilohertz to 2 gigahertz. And in that band, you can find everything from AM and shortwave broadcasts, the new low band ham radio activities, all the HF bands, all the way up through 2 meters, 70 centimeters and above. It's an amazing radio. And the entry-level model, the 14-bit RSP1A that I used for all these demonstrations, runs about $120 and the software is free. This radio should replace all those 8-bit dongles out there. I do in passing note that this turns the SDRplay series of radios into scanning receivers. I trust SDRplay looked up at the FCC regulations in terms of scanning receivers. Plus, various other countries have limits on scanners. So, do I continue to recommend the SDRplay radios? Yes, of course. Do I recommend that if you have one, that you upgrade to software to version 1.3? That's a no-brainer. Yes, absolutely. It's free and gives you more to play with. I do also recommend that you download and print the version 1.3 user manual and walk yourself through it while in front of your computer with your SDRplay radio connected and SDR Uno on the screen. In channel news, I'm delighted to announce that all the amateur technician class training videos have now been updated to match the new 4th edition of the ARRL license manual for ham radio technician class. You can see a complete and current list at either ke0og.net/training, or you can go to my channel page on YouTube to the Technician Class playlist. Also, if you or a friend have difficulty watching the free videos on YouTube, you can purchase from me a USB thumb drive with all the tech videos for US $29.99, $29.99, postpaid anywhere in the US. Be sure to watch the Saturday YouTube live sessions held at 1900 UTC. That's 1 p.m. U.S. Mountain Daylight Time, 2 p.m. U.S. Central Daylight Time, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern Daylight Time, and noon U.S. Pacific Daylight Time. The Saturday live stream is devoted to answering your questions, whether posed at dcasler.com/ask-dave or sent to hamradioanswers@gmail.com. I also try to answer questions posed during the live stream chat. These are kind of fun events. I look forward to them every week. If you have subscribed and clicked on the bell, you should get a notice as each session goes live. If you aren't, make sure the bell is clicked and also check your spam folder. You can also go directly to the live feed at youtube.com/c/davidcasler/live at the appointed hour. Thanks for all your support, suggestions, and ideas. Please like and share this video. Your subscription gives YouTube your vote of confidence in my channel. If, after subscribing, you also click the bell, you'll get an email notification of every new video. I like to distribute knowledge widely, and my videos are free for the viewing on YouTube. Thank you for the many patrons who are supporting this channel via patreon.com, and to those who drop a little something into the tip jar at ke0og.net/tip-jar. All is most gratefully acknowledged and appreciated. Also note that I have all the amateur extra training videos available on a thumb drive for US $49.99 postpaid in the US, so you don't need to be online to watch them. Of course, you can watch them freely on YouTube. You can see all of these options at dcasler.com/support. So until we next meet, 73.